Hello and welcome once again to Solo Board Gaming Presents, and today it's Beneath the Med from GMT Games and designed by Gregory M. Smith. This is the latest iteration, the fourth iteration in fact, of what we can call the Hunters series, which are the submarine simulations of World War II. This one takes us beneath the Med and is a simulation of the Italian submarine campaign of the Regia Marina between 1940 and 1943. Most of us are quite familiar with the U-boat war against the convoys, the Battle of the Atlantic, the wolf packs, etc. But this one gives us new submarines, a fascinating insight into the submarine warfare of Regia Marina. And in fact, I think I read that the Italian Navy had the second largest submarine fleet of any nation at the outset of World War II. So, this is the first game in the whole series that I've actually owned and played. So we'll have a quick look at the components and do a quick review at the end. And there's a reason why I've decided to make this video, because why do that? There are so many videos available about the rest of the series, and this isn't too different. But there was a reason why I wanted to do this particular video, and we'll come to that at the end. Meanwhile, let's take a quick look at what's in the box. So, the first thing we get, obviously, as usual, is the rulebook. It's the usual kind of rulebook. There are some illustrations in it, for instance, of the counters here. But the text is fairly widely spaced, so it's not too dense at all. It's not a long rule book. There are plenty of historical notes and context. In the end here, I think somewhere here we go. There are some additional rules, advanced rules if you like evasive maneuvers, variable generic escorts, and variable aircraft quality. I quite like that one. I haven't played any of these variants yet, but I certainly will do so. It's going to spice up the game just a little bit, but basically the rules are very easy to follow. I will say though that I am missing a nice summary for the actual combat element of the game. But there we go. So there's the rule book. I like that one. Index on the back, no problem. The next thing we have is, and this is key to the enjoyment of the game, the submarine maps. Now it's these maps which show the layout of your submarine. And most of you familiar with the series will be familiar with the way these maps are set out. There's a picture there in the middle. There's your deck gun and ammo, 100mm deck gun here, as well as a twin anti-aircraft gun. Your port base goes here, and your random events chips, forward torpedo tubes and their reloads, the aft torpedo tubes and their reloads, hull damage, very important that one, because depending on how much hull damage you take, well, A, it could very well sink you, but B, it will extend your refit period. The standard default refit is 1 month in between patrols, but damage up to here will extend it by another month, up to there 2 months, and anything here 3 months. And then there's your flooding, which can increase during a cycle of attacks to the point where it can force you to surface and to attempt to scuttle the ship. For you, the war is over, and so on. Then there's your damage, and we can damage the electric motors, the diesel engines, periscope, radio, hydrophones, batteries, dive planes, fuel tanks, and the fore and aft doors. It'll give us our crew status, the generic crew themselves, the comandante, the secondo, the second in command, the weapons officer, the chief engineer, and the medic. And here we have some special missions. We'll ask you to carry supplies or a commando unit to drop off at a certain mission box, a certain location, etc. Then we have our patrol areas. Now notice this sub only has patrol areas in the Mediterranean, Western, Central and Eastern Mediterranean, and you can track your position on those patrols using this box if that's what you want to do, or you can use the accompanying map, which we'll come on to. There is a real decision to make here on which class of submarine out of the 12 classes, and there are 12 classes of submarine in this pack, and there's real reasons why you might want to choose one above the other. Varying submarines can carry more or less hull damage, can take more or less flooding, etc. There'll be great differences with the amount of torpedoes they can carry in the tube and for reloads, and where they can be deployed. This class, the Perla class, can only, for instance, be deployed in the Mediterranean area. But it can also go on special missions to drop off the Italian SLCs, those two-man, we call them human torpedoes, but they weren't that really. Those two-man mini chariots that would sneak into British harbours and attempt to sink warships. Incredibly brave crews that did manage to do a lot of damage, and they were on the cutting edge of what technology was at that point. So you can even go on a mini mission, if you like, almost a game in itself, of once you've dropped off, providing you get to the mission box, that is, with your sub, once you've dropped these off, there's a player sheet which continues the game into the harbour to see if these SLCs are actually successful. Subs have different, there we go, this one for instance can be deployed in the Western Med or anywhere in the Atlantic, the Brazilian coast, the Caribbean, West Africa, Spanish coast, and so on. There's your sub, and again this one can take a lot more damage, can be deployed anywhere. This one has two sets of twin anti-aircraft guns, two deck guns. This is a big vessel. This one has a crew of 72. There are only 3 in its class. The first one I showed you, the Perla, only has a crew of, I think it was 47. So there are various reasons why you might want to choose particular submarines. There we go. Some of them indeed can carry, if you look at this one, the Canny class. Again, available right at the start of the war, from June 1940, it can carry tons more torpedoes, 8 loaded in the forward tubes, another 6 in the aft tubes, 16 reloads here, 6 reloads here. That's a big sub with a crew of 78, wasn't it, I think? Total production 4 boats. So there you go. So that is, it's worth looking through all of these unfamiliar classes of submarine to arrive at the sub that you want to take out on your first mission. And one of the things you'll need alongside your sub mat is your attack mat. Ha! So, once you've rolled for events in the various boxes en route, you'll be needing your attack mat, and all the procedures are nicely set out here. It could be a sub v sub event, an air attack, an escorted vessel. Is it going to be day or night? Are you going to be surfaced or submerged? And this is where you'll put your targets, whether it be small freighter, large freighter, or tanker, or even warship, or capital ship. There are plenty of those in the scenarios. You'll decide which armament, which weapons to use, either your deck guns or your torpedoes, and how many. And this is the track upon which you'll place your small tokens for the freighters, the tankers, the warships, or whatever, and fire your weapons at them at various ranges. Another decision, at extreme range or at very close range. Obviously, the closer you are, the more chance to be detected by the escort. Once detected, it's difficult to then avoid detection. You will get into a cycle, if you're really unlucky, a constant cycle of being detected and depth charged. This track here will record the incoming hits on the U-boat. So along with the sub-mat, you'll be using that attack mat a lot throughout the game. The next thing is the map. Now, some people use the map, others don't. I certainly did. I really like the map. It's a quality little thing for a start. And if Greg Smith and GMT are going to supply me with this map, there's a reason for it. Yes, you can track your position, as we said before, on the submarine map, like so. That's fine, and it works. But for more immersion in the game, for more narrative, I much prefer this. So it's double-sided. The first side of it is for the Mediterranean area. And there are 4 classes of sub here, look. Out of the 12 classes, 4 of them can only operate in the Mediterranean. All the other 8 classes can operate in the Mediterranean and in the Atlantic. And here's your port. You'll transit into either the central Mediterranean, the Western Mediterranean, with a transit through the Straits of Gibraltar here, fraught with danger, or the Eastern Mediterranean, like so. And in fact, this box just here is where I grounded my sub on one of my patrols. Beached the sub. But more of that later. So, that's the Mediterranean. On the other side, we have the Atlantic map. Another lovely map of the Atlantic. So all of the other classes can be assigned to the Atlantic, and during your career, you can even be reassigned back to the Med, and so on. But in the Atlantic, you're based in Bordeaux, Bettersom, here. Who knew? I love the way we learn new things with these games. I knew nothing about the Italian submarine war effort, the bravery of those crews in World War II, and all the different subs and these specialist kind of missions that they would go on, and certainly didn't know that quite a few of them were based from time to time in Bordeaux, which was known as Bettersom. Out into the central Atlantic, Battle of the Atlantic against the convoys, the Caribbean, the Brazilian coast, Spanish coast, West Africa, and so on. They're just brilliant. And again, for the immersion, I like to know where I am. I like to know that, oh, okay, right now I have Brazil on my starboard side, for instance. It just helps the narrative and helps me get more and more immersed into the game. Not essential, but I like it. Now we have our blow up doll. And again, this is a part of the game that not all people use. I did wonder whether it was something I wanted to use or not, but I ended up doing so, and now I always will. Why is that? I think it's, again, it's the immersion, it's the narrative, it's the justification. Because before I set out on my first patrol, I thought, well, what am I trying to achieve? Obviously, I want to survive my career. I want to survive the war. I want to sink maximum amount of tonnage. And then I saw that this guy here doesn't even start with a submariner's badge. So I thought, well, how do you get a submariner's badge? And apparently you get your submariner's badge, in the game anyway, for completing your first successful mission. So if you get back to port and you've failed, you won't get the submarine badge. So I thought, okay, I want my first mission to be successful. Now I found myself wanting that badge on this doll. So that's what ended up happening. I got my submariner's badge. Eventually, a couple of patrols later, I was awarded a silver medal as well. I think that was for sinking a warship. So now this is an essential part for me. This is me, and I like to watch him develop. Certain of the awards give you game effects, positive effects that can be applied in the game as you gain skills. I like that. So before we get on to the player aids, the next thing, final thing that goes along with that is the Submariner's patrol log. Again, essential part of the game. It's your scores, if you like. If you want to look at it at its most simplistic, it's your scores. But for me, it's being able to read back into the story that I've just played out in the game. You'll put the name of your submarine here, your commander's name here, which you'll make up yourself. And here we goes from June 1940 to August 43, after which you'll add up your total patrols, the amount of ships sunk, the total tonnage, and you'll put where your patrol is, Western Med, Eastern Med, Atlantic, Caribbean, wherever, what targets you came across, the various freighters, small, large, tankers, and then the tonnage sunk, adding that up at the end. So that's quite essential there as well. Now, this is the part of the game that's essential as well. You'll be using these charts a lot, and you'll be rolling a lot of dice throughout the game. In fact, here they are. We get 6 quality dice. Well done, GMT. These are not cheap dice, they're good quality, nice and heavy. We get 3 D6s, 2 D10s. Notice the varying colours. Very useful because you're very often rolling for tens and units, that kind of thing, and you get a D20 like so. So you'll be rolling on these charts many times throughout the game. This is what some people don't like. It's purely random. It's process driven, of course it is. It's a solo game, it's a solitaire game, although there are some rules where more than one person can play, but it's a solitaire game. So you'll be rolling tons on these charts, and I know a lot of people don't like that. But there's a lot of mitigation in the game, and I'm going to mention this very shortly. There's much more decision making and mitigation than you initially think. Anyway, back to the charts. Your submarine patrol assignments, these are all the areas where you can be assigned here in the Mediterranean, and whether it's a special mission, whether it's convoy interception, whether it's dropping off commandos, whether it's supply, whether it's mine laying and that kind of thing. It'll change depending on what month and year you're in. And your aircraft encounter charts are here, and your anti-aircraft gun attacks versus aircraft chart here. Interestingly, some of the Italian submarines, and again something I didn't know, had very large profiles, large conning towers, could be easier to spot on the surface, and took longer therefore to dive as well because of the, for instance, size of the conning tower and whatnot. But on certain successful rolls back at port, you can have a conning tower refit, and that is going to help you during this aircraft encounter, because for a successful crash dive, where we have to roll a 7 or more, if you haven't had that conning tower refit, it's an 8 or more. Ooh. So that's worth doing. So this is for the Mediterranean. On the other side here is Better Song, which is the Atlantic deployment for your submarine. So that's that one, which you're going to be using each and every mission. Probably the most used one of the charts is the encounter chart. This will tell you whether you're encountering aircraft, a capital ship, a warship, a ship and escort, convoy, which are always escorted. Capital ships are always escorted, by the way, as well. Depending on whether you're in a transit box, where you might not encounter a lot, but mainly it'll be aircraft, and the encounters change depending where you are on the actual map, what physical geographical area you are in. Also, there are tables for additional rounds of combat and the Gibraltar Passage, and the Dangerous Bay of Biscay box, and the Special Missions box. And various other roles here, modifiers depending on what year of the war we're in, whether it's day or night, whether it's switching to night. This is a really simple one, but I really enjoyed it because I tried it a couple of times. I tried it and succeeded, and I also tried it and failed. And this is, for instance, if it's daytime and you come across a ship and escort, let's say it's a large freighter with an escort, I would like, being the submarine captain, the commandante, I would like to attack at night, which probably means I can do a surface attack with my torpedoes, and also less likely to be detected because the bubbles from the steam torpedoes shouldn't be seen as they carve a path through the water. So you roll to see if you can change from day to night. You're not changing the clock, of course. No, as a commandante, you're making that decision. Guys, we attack now, in which case we're going to do it submerged, or we'll tail the convoy and attack at night. That's a risk. Because once I tried that and I succeeded, the next time the target evaded me, I lost the convoy. A realistic situation. On the back of here are your attack charts, the submarine, torpedo and deck gun fire charts. The rolls to hit are different depending on what range you are, from extreme range right up to close range. There are modifiers here. Then you have to roll to see if any hits were actually a dud. Then for damage, and then it tells you how much damage that particular vessel requires to sink it. So do you do a follow-up attack, etc., etc.? You may not get a chance to do that because there's also the escort detection chart. Has the escort detected you? There's a whole range of modifiers on there, mainly depending on if there's any damage to your sub, for instance, dive planes out, or whether it's a capital ship that's trying to detect you or a warship, and so on. Then there's the escort and the air attack chart. How many hits they're going to do to you, and what modifiers there are there. And then finally, let's say they do 2 hits to you. You then roll on this chart here to see what damage, what part of the submarine has been damaged. And there's a whole cycle you can get into here, because once you've determined that your sub's now damaged, you go through escort detection again. The chances are, because they've detected you once, they'll detect you easier on the second time, and you can get into a heck of a cycle. This happened to me on one of my patrols where I was finding it difficult to break the cycle. My crew were getting seriously wounded or even killed. I was taking hull damage. I tried to exceed my test depths, which I did. Wow. I could almost hear the hull creaking as I was rolling, as the tension built up. It worked. On the next roll, the escort failed to detect me. So I escaped and limped back to base with a very, very damaged boat. That was great fun, but unnerving at the time. What else do we have? We have so when you find a small freighter, a large freighter, a warship, a capital ship, a tanker, on your what's it called? The encounter chart, that's right, sorry. You then roll to see which vessel you've actually encountered, and I think there's 400 odd of these vessels. It's amazing, really. Those are all the small freighters, the large freighters, the tankers, and so on. The capital ships, and all these are vessels. Every single vessel has a genuine name, a vessel that was lost or at least hit during the war, with their tonnage, and they're all different. The name of the vessel, and you can put all this on your submarine log. Look at the capital ships here, such amazingly famous names: Ark Royal, the Royal Oak, Barham, Nelson. I think Warspite is here. Yeah, there's Warspite. Really brings the game to life and makes it quite realistic. There are certain times where by rolling a 666, a natural 12 on the encounter chart, instead you have a random event, and you can only have a maximum of 1 random event for a entire patrol. And out of all the patrols I did, I only ever had 1 random event. So I think on the other side is this is almost a mini game. The SLC, those 2-man mini torpedoes. Once you drop them off, there's a whole section here. You go through the SLC's attack procedure, its harbour penetration, its detection chart, the targets, and so on. That's unique to this iteration of the game. Now, finally, of course, there's a sheet and a half of counters, and these are all gaming counters. There's your killed in action and wound counters, the various torpedoes, and there's the German electric torpedoes there, which we use later in the war, your ammo, or your damage markers. There's your submarine itself, the mines, the medals and awards, and of course various ships that you place on your target board, your small freighter, and here we have capital ships. There's Indomitable there, and also aircraft. There's a small fairy albacore, anti-submarine warfare, torpedo aircraft, and so on. So, without going too much into that, why did I want to make a video about this particular game? Well, a little more than that. I actually want to follow this video with a playthrough of just a couple of missions. Why? Because of that perennial argument, and it's a valid one, about how random these kind of games are or not. Of course, there's some randomness in these games, and this is my particular point of view. Of course, there's lots of die rolling, but there's more and more mitigation as you go through the game and as you undertake the various patrols. And it actually surprised me just how many decisions I was making as I was going through the game. Yes, I was doing a lot of dice rolling, but I was making a heck of a lot of decisions as well. I don't even have to, for instance, attack that target that I've just seen through my periscope. It's my decision as to whether I'm going to do that or not. And then there's the range at which I do it at. And then there's submerged or surfaced. And then there's do I wait till night? There's a lot of decisions to make. So I just wanted to make that point. This is as realistic as you can get, played with cardboard and some counters. It's a narrative game, so you build up your own story, and for me, the more you immerse yourself, the more you're going to enjoy the game. So I'm going to do a short playthrough video of just one, maybe even two, I don't know, patrols, just to see how many decisions we're actually making. I think that's worthwhile doing, and that's what I'm looking forward to do, if you bear with me. I have to thank you for watching. I really do appreciate that. Please try and join me for the next video in the next day or two. Thanks again, and buy this game. It's a fantastic game. We love it. Cheers. Bye-bye.